Good morning. Well, with apologies to Mr. Shakespeare, today we're going to explore what's in a metaphysical name. Naming holds power and mystery for us. It's one of the ways we use this spiritual act of the power of our spoken word. Our language and how we speak has the power literally to shape our thoughts, which shape our reality, our experience. What we think and what we speak literally can rewire our embedded, less than helpful behavior patterns, can literally transform our cells, our physiology, change our biology. The power of the word, naming and claiming. So rich and useful. Tell you a little secret. My birth name is Margaret. Oh, when I started school, one of my first teachers was Mrs. Margaret Weed. Love that woman, but she was ancient when you're 5. Here's a wake-up piece of reality. I'm now older than Mrs. Weed ever was, all through my primary years. Ouch. One saving grace was I had a nickname. And my family called me this nickname up until I went to school, and my mother put her foot down. My dad had given me this nickname, and said, I will not have my only daughter, who I waited more than a decade to arrive, I will not have that little girl, this sweet and innocent little child, referred to as, no, I don't think I'm going to tell you that. But I didn't get to be called that at school. Mom said, you figure out another nickname. That's how I got Margie. Now, half of my family calls me Margaret, and half of my family calls me Margie. All of my life, I've been straddling both of these. Now, the energy of Margaret, given its meaning, is pearl. I could live with that. But then I got saddled with a second name. No, I'm not going to tell you that one either. But it means star, so that was acceptable. I could kind of live with that. But these were such old-fashioned names to my mind and my ear when I was a child. And still, it was lovely whenever someone who cares for you uses your name when they begin a sentence or when they call you. Unless it was my mother's shrill voice, because I was in trouble. But our names are very important to us. Hearing our name, having it spoken by people who care about us. Rich, because in the family, those names have value. We're given a name of importance. Those 2 names came from one, my father's mother, whom I did not know, and my mother's best friend, who had passed away while she was carrying me, another woman I never got to know. But this beautiful collection of names I have grown into appreciation for as I aged. Now, the power of naming in the Bible was especially important. In the Hebrew language, every name, whether it's a person, a place, a thing, it has an intention. It carries a vibration. It has a specific meaning. Our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, collaborated with Bible scholars and created a resource for us, the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, so we could understand these underlying meanings in the Scripture. We view the Bible as through the metaphysical lens, that which is beyond the obvious, that which transcends the physical experience and the physical knowing. And the first place this takes evidence in the Bible is in the creation story in Genesis. You know, there are two creation stories in Genesis, so to follow this one, you'll go to chapter 2. And there's a place where God and Adam are talking about Adam's desire and need for a helpmate. And so God creates all of these creatures and parades them before Adam and gives him the power to give them a name, where he names all the animals and the birds of the sky. You know this part of the Scripture. And the power of Adam giving each one of these animals and birds a name was that it was helping him identify for himself, was that helpmate among this collection of creatures? It was part of the search. And Adam was empowered to identify that which was the partner, the completion of his holy and sacred self. So that's another whole story we'll get into, perhaps in another message. But all of the naming of these animals is the recognition of the divine ideas available to us in our consciousness. In Native American culture on the mainland, which is the indigenous spiritual energy that I was connected with in my work there on the mainland before I came to Hawaii. In the Native American wisdom, animals are imbued with the characteristics of their nature, and they symbolize and carry that medicine, or as we would say here in the islands, the mana of that energy. We humans carry this deep need to name and to be named. It encodes us with who we are, the intention perhaps from our parents. It's a sacred act of identifying when you use someone's name. And the name is a symbolization of what your hopes and dreams are if you're naming a child. It's a way we refer to and describe. It's a way we recognize who and what is around us by the names. And most importantly, it's how we claim that energy ourselves, is to identify it and give it a name. So the value and power in giving a name is nothing small in our lives. Lots of research, as a matter of fact, tells us that the act and power of naming may shape who we are. There are all kinds of research studies. You can Google that and find out everything interesting on it, a lot of bunny trails to run down if you're like me, and what you can unveil for yourself is to begin to ask, how have I been shaped by the name that I carry? Many of us of a certain age will remember a very powerful mini-series on television in the 70s, Roots. And the main character, Kunta Kinte, was given his name in a sacred ritual that involved a celebration from the whole village. And as the village gathered and made noise with drums, the father held his child. He had been given the name for this child, but he'd not spoken it aloud. And then he whispers into the ear of this infant this powerful name, Kunta Kinte, 3 times. And the celebration continues through the day, and then the culmination of this sacred naming ritual, the father goes out beyond the edge of the village at the dark of night to the full magnificence of the cosmos, raises his child, his son, to the heavens and says, "Behold, the only thing greater than you." Naming is a very powerful act. And in the Hebrew language, this meaning is conveyed through the stories of Scripture. If it's your goal to understand the Bible more deeply, I invite you to look online. You can get a digital copy of the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary by Charles Fillmore for 99 cents on Kindle. If you want a paperback or a hardbound, that's available too through unity.org. But this is an exploration into what the intent is of the stories and the lore and the history that is recorded through the Bible. Perhaps most important of the naming stories, and there are many throughout the Scriptures, but perhaps the most well-known one is further on in Genesis. It's in Exodus. Exodus 3, 13 and 14. This is the scripture. But Moses said to God, "If I come to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your ancestors has sent me to you,' and they ask me, 'What is his name?' what shall I say to them?" And God said to Moses, "I am who I am." He said further, "Thus you shall say to the Israelites, I am has sent me to you. I am who I am. The intrinsic nature of all that is encoded in that simple phrase. I am who I am. Now, the Bible is probably deliberately ambiguous about this because the Hebrews were very careful not to be too specific in labeling God. They understood it to be an energy past their ability to fully comprehend. And so they named and identified the various qualities of God. Each name is associated with some aspect of the totality of the divinity. And the whole of God, if you see it written in Hebrew, is, we would say the word Yahweh, but they print only the consonant letters with no vowels, leaving space for the divine to be revealed as our spiritual understanding grows. Metaphysically, in unity, we understand I am, this powerful phrase, to be the essence of divine nature, the name of the Christ presence of God that is the true spiritual identity of every one of us. I am names and calls upon our creative power. So it would do us well to carefully use these words. I'm working to break myself of the habit to say, oh, I am so tired today, I didn't sleep enough last night. To recognize that I may feel tired, but I do not want to take ownership of that. So much more wisdom to say, I feel kind of tired today. But the truth is, I am the vibrant, focused, alive, enthusiastic energy of God, and I have all that I need to do what is mine to do today. I may feel a thing that doesn't serve me well, and that's a way to name it. But don't take ownership of it with the power of the words, I am. It's a place in our language and this spiritual concept of using the power of our word that we often misuse. So we can recognize a feeling. We can know that we are not owned by our feelings, but we can acknowledge and own them, and we can call ourselves into the creative focus of something beyond our momentary feelings. I think what God is telling Moses in this passage, where he says, tell them, I am has sent you, that Moses didn't need any outside authority. His authority came from this presence of the one power, the one light, the one source that existed within him, and his job was to call that knowledge forth from the Israelites, to tell them that they held this same innate spiritual knowledge within them, and they can be guided by their spiritual discernment when they use their words, the power of their thought, creatively and constructively. The power of naming also appears in the book of Revelations, along with other episodes throughout. There are many circumstances where characters in the Bible go through a transformation and they receive a new name. And in the book of Revelation, there is the story of those who are released from prison are given a white stone, a clean slate, on which they can now imprint who they choose to be, what the calling of their heart is. They can turn over a new leaf and begin by claiming who they are anew. And we celebrate the power of this ritual at the first of every year. The end of the year this year, on New Year's Eve, we did the burning bowl and cleared the field of what no longer serves so that we could allow that wisdom of God to rise in us and give us a name to imprint, a word, an intention, a calling of our heart to imprint on the white stone. However we come to this name, whether it's given to us at birth, whether we take on a name because it arises out of our own heart's calling, whether a name comes to us from spiritual discernment, such as the white stone ceremony, or whether a spiritual leader and guide has bestowed a name on us as a mark of a new consciousness point in our life. However we came through it, the important part is that we claim that and manifest the qualities, the mana, the medicine of that name, that we claim and become who we are meant to be. We establish in consciousness who we are by naming who we will be, taking on a name that has a meaning, taking on the qualities of God consciousness. That's what our 12 power system is about here in Unity. Here in January, we recognize the power of faith, and we build on that each month, an aspect of God wisdom and God nature alive in us through this I am name of our consciousness. These two gentlemen we are about to celebrate in the season of nonviolence, each of them had a take on this idea of the power of naming. Gandhi called us to name things correctly so that we were led to our higher purpose. He wrote, "Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny." Not something floating, but something you can craft through the art and attention to this powerful creative force of naming, the power of the I am. I wanted to find a Martin Luther King quote that exemplified this same thing, the power of identifying, the power of naming. And as I read through a number of websites with his quotes, I realized every speech, every sermon, every quote that I found called something into being. Whether he was calling it to identify it as not serving our highest good, but he always then named what should be in the place of it. Some of my favorites I found in my research. His belief that we could name and claim and manifest. Martin Luther King said, "I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word." Truth and love will have the final word. He also wrote, "There is an existential moment in your life when you must speak for yourself. No one else can speak for you." So speak the power of your name, whether it's your given name, Margaret, its meaning, Pearl, the nickname you prefer, and almost everybody now calls you Margie. Whatever that is for you, as well as the intention you have for who you are and how you will be in this life, in this world. Martin Luther King also wrote, "Use me, God. Show me how to take who I am, who I want to be, and what I can do, and use it for a purpose greater than myself." He named what it was to have hope, to stand in the light and not the darkness. He named being forgiving. He named being compassionate. He named how to act rather than stand on the sidelines. And he called all of us to that same power of naming and claiming. Now, we got to this topic today kind of by a side route. On New Year's Day, I was blessed to receive a new car, new to me car. It was a whole cosmic giggle of a story, but there's a new car out there in the parking lot that's now mine today, and I am grateful, blessed, and in the first days that it had come to me, a friend innocently inquired, at least I think it was an innocent inquiry, "What will you name this new car?" Well, I've never named a car in my life. I know many people do. I have friends who have or have had cars named Ginger, Leahi, Jewel, and a bunch of others, but it's never been anything I've engaged in. Well, what if I'm missing out on something? What if I'm missing the gratefulness that comes from my heart to now have this available in my life? So it provided me several days of fun to imagine what the car might be named. When I have a cat, I always ask the cat what its name is. But the car isn't whispering to me yet. But so as I've been thinking about this, it's kind of a fun question. Like, I want something that represents me, a little flair, a little sass, but truly who I am, something I won't get tired of. You know, it's kind of like choosing a tattoo. You want to make sure it's the truth of who you are, not something you're going to want to cover up next week. So I thought about going a humorous route. Okay, humorously irreverent route would be Holy Roller. Ha! It could be something descriptive of life in Hawaii, like beach buggy, or just descriptive of my appreciation. The first thing I thought of was some combination that would have the right number of letters, or perhaps using numerals, grateful. And do you know the next day I passed a car on the street down in Waikiki with grateful on its license plate? Okay, check that one off the list. Whatever it comes, it will represent somehow my relationship to this great gift, my appreciation for it, and how it will be useful to me. Maybe we'll have a naming ceremony in the parking lot in weeks to come. So more than 1,000 years later, after Moses was directed to tell the Israelites that I am had sent him, Jesus would call upon this same authority, this same understanding in the great I am statements he utters in the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the light. This example means that the Christ within me is my way, my guide, my path. It is the ultimate truth, and it is the infinite light that each one of us holds. This Christ within you is your way, your path, your growing understanding of spiritual truth, your light, your presence to shine in the world fully and freely. We cannot create the kingdom here on earth, the kingdom of heaven that we are called to be, without recognizing our own innate oneness with God. So take on this power, this name, I am. Use it to rise up into the energy of the Christ that you are already. Use it to magnify the light that you carry so that you are the light on the hill for others. We get to make a choice how we want to express this power in our lives. The question we might ask ourselves is, what is it I want? And then what name do I give it? And will I claim it this day? Will I use my power of I am? And you will gain a greater truth each time you use your sacred name, the I am, followed by what truth you are attaching to it in that moment. Take a breath with me into this space and allow this energy of naming to center in your heart and in your mind. Ask yourself, what is it I want? How am I called to be? What is my service in the world? Allow that to rise in your consciousness. Grasp its message for you today. And then rest it in your heart. Breathe into that space. Perhaps something new and exciting will be revealed to you today. Perhaps a confirmation of something you've been noodling on and playing with for a while. The power of the I am. The awakening awareness of your own Christ divinity is called forth with these powerful words. Make your naming in every circumstance a blessing, a gift, a movement of God in you, as you are called to be the movement of God in this world. Let's rest in the silence to hear God's wisdom.